Alright guys, here we are. This is the first time we're going to have two videos on the channel for quite a while. I mean, we haven't done this in a good minute, but we need content. We need it now. And right now we're having so many Dynasty startup drafts that I think it's the perfect time to go out, and really it's just giving me so many ideas of what kind of videos to make because I'm seeing different values from all over the board, and I'm like, oh wow, I guess I am a lot higher on that player than consensus is, especially in these separate formats. But we're going to jump into a player that I was way wrong on. This is similar to my Chris Godwin take last offseason. I did not have this player in a single league. He completely smashed. And what was even worse is Scott came on here. We had discussions about the player. Scott told me, Mason, you're being stupid. You need to go get this guy on your team here for reasons, blah, blah, blah. And I told him, I was like, Scott, draft capital, yada, yada, yada. And I was wrong. Here we are a year later, and I'm willing to admit that I was wrong. I'm willing to actually go out and buy high on this player for mainly one particular reason. And I think a lot of people are overlooking this, and this kind of went under the radar, but it's very important in my eyes, and we're going to get into it. So right now, I am buying Mark Andrews everywhere I can. And this is different for myself. I usually don't go out and trade for these players who don't have the draft capital. I like to see the guys who really had the profile coming in, and then they hit. Then I'll go out and pay a premium for them. But I'm going out trading for Mark Andrews right now. And a significant reason for this is not many people are changing his value after the Hayden Hurst trade. And I know Hayden Hurst wasn't a significant contributor on the Baltimore Ravens team. We're going to dive into his career on that team just a little bit deeper later on in the video. But let me explain why this is significant. First off, the Falcons actually gave up a good amount to get Hayden Hurst. Now, this is important to me because it shows that both these teams evaluated Hayden Hurst and they said, hey, he is a good player, he's a good NFL tight end, and he is worth a second-round rookie pick. So we go in, the Falcons give up a second and a fifth-round rookie pick for Hayden Hurst and a fourth. We can pretty much take the fourth and fifth-round picks out of this equation just because if we look at historical hit rates of rookies in this round, they're kind of the same pick. But anyway, let's jump into Mark Andrews. I'm going to go through his profile, talk about why he is a massive buy right after this, and at the very end of the video, I'm going to go out and give you some examples of players that you can go out and trade for Mark Andrews. So in 2018, Mark Andrews' rookie year, he comes into the draft process, and he's selected at the very end of the third round by the Baltimore Ravens. He's selected with the 22nd pick in the third round, and right now he is 23 years old. He's 6'5", 256, and he's best comparable to Eric Ebron. So while I was kind of off Mark Andrews his rookie year and off of him last offseason, is this same exact offseason, this same exact year where they go out and draft Mark Andrews at the end of the third, they take Hayden Hurst at the end of the first round. And if y'all remember, not many Dynasty players liked Hayden Hurst. His profile was really subpar. He came from a baseball background, but he came in as a super old rookie. Right now, he's 26 years old, and he has pretty much the same exact body type as Mark Andrews. He is 6'5", 250 pounds, so pretty much the same exact body. And this is why I was off him. I was like, if I'm looking at these two tight ends who pretty much prototype kind of the same, Hayden Hurst is definitely going to be more of a blocking tight end. Mark Andrews is more of a passing game option. I would much rather lean Hayden Hurst, especially he was actually going later than Mark Andrews was in rookie drafts that offseason, and I wrongfully thought that was a silly mistake. But here we are. I'm willing to admit why I was wrong, and let's jump into Mark Andrews' first two seasons of his career. So the important thing I'm going to talk about for Mark Andrews, and which I don't really talk about in many videos, is snap share. So snap share is essentially how many snaps you are on the field for the offensive possessions. Now, if we look at 2018, Mark Andrews had a snap share of 34.82%. So about a third of the snaps he was on the field, which is actually decent for a rookie tight end, and that jumps to 41.36% in 2019. Now, this was the most puzzling thing about the Mark Andrews production profile in 2019, in my opinion, because although he played on less than half the snaps, he was able to go out there and lead the team in both targets and receptions with 98 targets, 64 receptions, 852 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 8.7 yards per target. So this is really significant just because we know that while Mark Andrews is on the field, Lamar Jackson is kind of funneling in on him and trying to get him the ball as often as possible. We see that this is pretty much Lamar Jackson's best weapon in the passing game, and that's why he's highlighted such an offense. And if we even go back to his rookie season with Joe Flacco under center, which is important to look at because we want to see Mark Andrews have success with multiple quarterbacks. We don't want him to just be tied to Lamar Jackson, say, hey, Lamar Jackson's fantastic MVP 2019 season was the only reason that Mark Andrews was extremely productive. But back in 2018, as a rookie, he did have 50 targets, 34 receptions, 552 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 11 yards per target. So this 11 yards per target is really significant in my opinion, just because it shows the talent that Mark Andrews has with the ball in his hands, finding the open spots on the field, and he's just extremely efficient every time they look towards him. And I think this is what allowed the Baltimore Ravens to go out and trade away Hayden Hurst. So if we look at Hayden Hurst, his 2018, he was not that impressive, honestly, and this is why I was going out and trying to trade pretty much every 4th round rookie pick I had last offseason for Hayden Hurst. I actually have him on a ton of Dynasty teams just because I picked him up for completely free that offseason. But his rookie year, he had a 23% snap share, 23 targets, 13 receptions, 163 yards, 1 touchdown, 7.1 yards per target. So obviously not near as impressive as Mark Andrews was in the passing game. He is a better blocker, and you can argue that he was at least a better player for this Baltimore Ravens offense and what they asked him to do that season. But when it comes to fantasy, obviously Mark Andrews was a significant step ahead. So if we go to 2019, and this is essentially the entire reason I'm buying into the Mark Andrews hype, and I'm buying into he can actually take a step forward in 2020. Hayden Hurst was able to command a 41.36% snap share in 2019. This is identical to what Mark Andrews was able to do. So if we look at both of these players, really, they were cannibalizing each other all throughout the season. They were on the field just as much as each other. They actually were behind Nick Boyle in snap share, but Nick Boyle is kind of completely irrelevant in this situation, in my opinion, just because Nick Boyle is pretty much a pure blocking tight end. Hayden Hurst is kind of the in-between guy. He can block and he can receive. Mark Andrews is the pure receiving threat. So now that we have Hayden Hurst out of the picture, I don't really care what Nick Boyle's snap share is going to be, just because he's not going to be going out on passing routes. He's just going to be in there to block. So with Hayden Hurst vacating those snaps and his 39 targets, 30 receptions, 349 yards, I think this is going to create a significant uptick in Mark Andrews' not only snap share, targets, receptions, but really just how he's used all over the field. And I don't even really think they're going to be asking him to do that much blocking, because if we look at the other weapons on this Baltimore Ravens team, I think that they kind of complement Mark Andrews perfectly. We see Hollywood Brown, and in my opinion, Hollywood Brown is the perfect kind of wide receiver you want to be playing across from if you want to be producing fantasy points, just because he's going to be able to keep the safeties back. He's going to take the attention from the defense, and at the same time, he's not going to be soaking up a significant amount of targets just because of where he operates in the field. And Mark Andrews is going to be that check down for Lamar Jackson in the future. The one question mark I have on Mark Andrews, and someone I think can eat into his production, would be Miles Boykin. If y'all don't know who Miles Boykin is, he is an athletic freak. I believe he came from Notre Dame last offseason. He was a rookie, and he's going into year 2. He really did nothing his rookie year. He was very efficient while he was targeted, but that was very far and few between. So it is a slight concern that Miles Boykin can develop into something a little bit more and take some targets away from Mark Andrews. But I think that the targets he's going to be commanding pretty much are just going to be the vacated targets from Hayden Hurst. And I think that Mark Andrews is going to be on the field more than he has been his entire career going into year 3. And year 3 is significant because we know for tight ends and wide receivers, but mainly tight ends, that's the year where they take the giant leap forward. This is the year where they go out and really determine who they are. So Mark Andrews has pretty much all the team investment, in my opinion, after they're willing to move on from their former first-round pick. Hayden Hurst, he's going to get the snaps, he's going to get the targets, and throughout his entire career, we've seen him be extremely efficient with the targets that he's received. And yeah, that's about it. Let me get into his dynasty value. And in the first startup draft we did, keep in mind this is tight end premium. This is 1.5 points per reception for the tight end, which really benefits Mark Andrews, in my opinion, just because he is a reception hog and he's going to be a target vacuum in this offense. He went at the very end of the second round. He went at the 212, which I think is completely fair value for him. And I saw him there. I was like, maybe that's a little high. I hadn't thought about it enough, but now I completely agree with that evaluation from him. In the next 2 startup drafts we conducted in the Flock 4 league, he went at the very end of the 3rd round, which I thought was fantastic value for him. And then we see at the Flock 5, he goes about mid-round 3, and I ended up trading Juju Smith-Schuster for Mark Andrews and a pick that's essentially going to turn into like a 204 in a best ball league. So I'm really happy with that evaluation. Y'all know I love Juju Smith-Schuster, but I see Mark Andrews as a guy that can really vault himself up to be in that George Kittle Dynasty tight end discussion after this offseason. But thanks so much, guys. Really hope y'all enjoyed the video. Really hope y'all got something from it. Go out, try to trade for Mark Andrews. If you do, make sure you come back to this video. Leave a comment what you got from Mark Andrews. Comment anything that you've seen him be traded for lately. That way we just get a good sense of where his real value is in Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues. But thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.